Coming up on the Sky News Daily with me, Niall Paterson, Donald Trump is back with a bang, with his first week under his belt. Just how is Trump 2.0 shaping up?
Donald Trump is heading back to the White House.
Together we can truly make America great again.
We are in for an unpredictable but fascinating 4 years.
And we're going to be following every twist and turn for the first 100 days. We'll be bringing you the latest updates and analysis first thing every morning. So join me, James Matthews.
Me, Martha Kelner.
And me, Mark Stone.
For Trump 100, every weekday at 6 a.m, wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, what a week that was. So much news around, you would be excused for forgetting. Donald Trump just got his second stint as president started. Our team in the States has, just like him, hit the ground running. We're covering the first 100 days of his presidency in a brand new podcast, Trump 100. So, to mark the occasion, I am grudgingly handing over the daily reins to the US Bureau. Here are their thoughts on what's happened and what's next.
We had a disaster in our house last night.
Go on.
Oh, go on.
We finished the last of the chocolate oranges that we'd brought out from Britain.
Sad.
So there are no... Have you tried an American version?
Well, American chocolate it's disgusting,
Yeah.
all of it.
They can do a chocolate orange. They can put a man on the moon. They cannot do a chocolate orange.
We cannot remember what day of the week it is, but we know that it is day 6 of this podcast.
I'm James Matthews.
I'm Martha Kelner.
And I'm Mark Stone.
And this is Trump 100. We've only had one working week of President Trump, but already he's made an impact.
He certainly has. So our Saturday episodes are going to be a little bit different from our weekday ones. We've kind of been working out how we're going to keep the momentum going for 100 days. Unless something really big and important and newsy happens that you need to know about, our Saturday pod is going to be an opportunity to get out of the Washington bubble and the day-to-day churn. And we're going to use Saturday to try and understand what impact Trump 2.0 is having on the lives of Americans across the country. There will be light and shade, there will be hope and fear as the different shades of Donald Trump hit home around the country and around the world.
But this week, so much has happened in the White House. We felt we needed to take a step back, take stock, and try and make sense of the most significant moments from this whirlwind week.
So we've each picked a couple of standout moments from the first week of the Donald Trump presidency. Martha, you've been out seeing the impact that Trump is having already. You want to talk about changes on the border, yeah?
Yeah, I was down most of the week on the Texas-Mexico border in Eagle Pass on the US side and Piedra Negra on the Mexican side. Changes already happening there. In fact, changes happening within minutes of Donald Trump taking office. Some of them felt more symbolic than anything that will make much material difference. For instance, the very afternoon that Donald Trump was inaugurated, there is a temporary section of fence in Eagle Pass, and soldiers were almost immediately hanging green sheets over the fence to obscure the view onto the Mexican side of the border, even though there was nothing much to see at all anyway. But also there were rows and rows of orange buoys, or buoys as we call them here, that were stacked up at the border fence, waiting to be put into the Rio Grande River, where there'll be a permanent barrier to migrants attempting to enter America that way. We also know 1,000 troops are heading down to the border, first of those expected to arrive within the next few days. But probably the most notable change I saw was in the faces of the people who suddenly had their asylum applications put on hold. Tens of thousands of asylum appointments cancelled with no apparent recourse. So basically, what I'm trying to say is a very swift enactment of Trump policy on the border.
And we saw viscerally that heartbreak in your report midweek. So listeners, go and look that up, because I think it does give you a clear sense of, I guess, what you could say is one of the more troubling parts of Donald Trump's policies. We're also seeing, Martha, the deportation raids starting to happen. They've happened over the last few days, right?
Yeah, these are the mass deportation raids, Mark, that the Trump administration has been trailing, saying to expect, part of their shock and awe start to the administration. And the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, saying they've begun with the arrest of 538 illegal immigrant criminals, including a suspected terrorist, 4 members of a Venezuelan gang, and several illegal immigrants convicted of sex crimes against minors. So it does appear these operations are underway. They're certainly striking fear into the heart of immigrant communities. I was just speaking to Father Homero Sanchez, who is a reverend in a parish in the south side of Chicago, and he was saying that his community is not against taking criminals, but they are against taking hardworking people who don't have papers. He was telling me that there's a 7-year-old boy in his parish who told him he wants to burn his birth certificate because he fears being separated from his parents. He's an American citizen, they are not. And he said they've not seen any increased immigration raids in Chicago yet in his area, but they are very afraid. He says at least 3 families in his parish have come to him and asked him to take on power of attorney so that if they are suddenly deported, then he can take control of their house, any other assets they have. He makes the point that a lot of these families have been there for more than 20 years, that they pay taxes, they report how much they make, that they're contributing to society in a positive way, but they're living in fear at the moment.
I wonder, both of you, do we think this has been the biggest impact that Trump has had so far, the immigration side of things?
I'm not sure it has, because I think looking at the days before Trump was inaugurated, all the talk was of these raids that were set to go. Chicago, we were told, was going to be the target.
Martha and a few emails there.
You went to Chicago before being diverted, Martha. And, the presentation, the PR of this showpiece policy was clearly set, ready to go, and ultimately cancelled, I think, because it was so well trailed in advance and the illegal immigrants had taken measures to avoid it. What we see today, and what we've seen this week subsequently, are pictures supplied to Fox News, I don't think anybody else, from ICE agents conducting raids in Boston. So that's almost the kind of catch-up PR while we wait for the second raft of activity, large-scale activity, which is what they want on their TV screens.
Yeah, I'm not sure we've seen that yet. I'm not sure we've seen the big offensive that they were saying was going to happen against undocumented migrants. I think that might be to come, or maybe it is, all bluster, and we won't see these big multi-pronged raids in multiple cities. I don't know.
Okay, James, your turn. Biggest moment of the week?
Yeah, well, what stays with me in terms of images, the Capital One Arena, where we all go to watch basketball, ice hockey, 20,000 capacity, and it's where Donald Trump, of course, put on the big policy show. The big stage with the family, the billionaire backers, and ultimately Donald Trump parading down the steps, waving a black book in his hand. It's almost Christmas pantomime meets serious politics. In that black book, the executive orders that would change America, that couldn't be signed privately, quietly on a desk, that had to be a big public show, quintessential Donald Trump. One thing actually that struck me was the pipe band, New York pipe band, and they cut to Donald Trump, and he was quite animated. And it was then I thought to myself, oh yeah, he's got a Scottish background. And of course, if you look in the Oval Office, over his shoulder is the picture of Mary MacLeod, his mother, who emigrated in the old days from the Isle of Lewis. And when you think of Trump being Scottish, I remember covering him when he bought the golf courses. And it was great. This son of our country coming back to spend loads of cash. And he was embraced at the time, but it all quickly went sour. Somebody who tried to evict the neighbours from his golf course, tried to lean on the Scottish government not to build wind turbines, and generally reached beyond accepted boundaries where he shouldn't have had influence. So you think of that, and you think of the template for Donald Trump that has got him to where he is at the moment, and it's the template that he is taking into this presidency and how he's treating Americans and the rest of the world. This son of Scotland is making half of America squeal. You can take our climate, but you'll never take our freedom. That was what I prepared earlier.
That's very good, James. That's very good. We need to have a Matthews anecdote.
We need to have canned laughter. That's what we need a button for.
There you go, record that.
Donald Trump is heading back to the White House.
Together we can truly make America great again.
We are in for an unpredictable but fascinating 4 years.
And we're going to be following every twist and turn for the first 100 days. We'll be bringing you the latest updates and analysis first thing every morning. So join me, James Matthews.
Me, Martha Kelner.
And me, Mark Stone.
For Trump 100 every weekday at 6 a.m, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm going to give you not moments, but observations at the end of what feels like a very long and very cold week. The first observation is that I think we've seen different shades of Donald Trump. There are many people who have been so worried about his presidency. There have been many people who've been so excited about his second presidency. And what we've actually seen is a mixture, different shades. Controversial announcements have come with dizzying speed, but they've been mixed with some policy decisions that I think many people in America and many people across the world will see as pragmatic and sensible. Yes, they may be America first, but that's what he said he'd do, and so he is. You know, the investment in artificial intelligence.
Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate, a new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
Obviously, that's going to be combined with minimal regulation that will worry some people, but it's going to have a massive impact on America's status in the world as the sort of leader as he will want to be. Wouldn't any nation want to be the leader in artificial intelligence? So you can get ahead of others, you can help healthcare research, all that sort of thing, and of course boost the energy sector, which he wants to do. So positives and negatives there. We've seen in his foreign policy that it's already yielding results like the Gaza ceasefire, but then the red lines are obscure. So what will his adversaries think? Could they make miscalculations as they maybe try to test those red lines? So hopes and fears, dangers. And then obviously, as we've discussed over the course of the week, his domestic agenda is proving to be deeply controversial. Martha has seen that viscerally, I think, on the southern border, maybe even constitution defying as well, setting a dangerous precedent. That's another thing, I think, precedents that Trump and actually Biden, by doing his preemptive pardons, they're all setting quite interesting precedents, which I think down the line could be dangerous.
He has power. You don't get to where he is without it. And I suppose at the heart of his power is uncertainty, certainly around the world. They're still trying to read Donald Trump. It was fascinating to watch him by video address speaking to world leaders in Davos.
My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes any nation on earth. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff to strengthen our economy and pay down debt.
On this video screen, a window on the man who would change the direction of the world. And I suppose it will take time to see where the chips fall after this initial flurry.
It wasn't all that long ago that everyone was talking about American decline. America was becoming an irrelevant, declining nation. I think that over just a few quite long days this week, we have seen America become more powerful, more dominant than it has been for a very long time. And the necessity for other countries suddenly to feel like they have to dance to America's tune hasn't been greater for years. Donald Trump would have it no other way.
Clearly, much of America is delighted, puffing its chest out once more. Much of America and much of the world is concerned at where that takes them.
And I do think that we will see somewhere someone is going to test him, push that red line and see how he reacts. And that will be a fascinating moment. I mean, I think under Trump 1.0, under the last presidency, you could easily see how if he was to, as he did, I mean, we know it because it happened, he pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, and his friends, America's friends, expressed their disappointment at that. They openly said, this is the wrong move. No one's done that this time.
Yeah. I can think who would challenge him right now.
Who's challenging him? No one.
China? Putin?
Someone will. Then we will see whether his bite matches his bark.
Okay, that's almost it. But before we go, what word would you choose to sum up this week?
One word to sum up the week?
When we thought about titles for this podcast, one of the options was The Fool Trump. At the end of week one, I'm wondering if that might have been better. because that's what we've certainly had.
One word, dizzying,
Tiring,
cold,
relentless.
exciting.
Yeah, fascinating.
The Fool Donald.
You're still on the podcast title. We've moved.
Yeah, we're still at
It is Trump 100. You are listening to Trump 100. You have been listening to the first full week of Trump 100. We got there, guys.
That's it for today. Thanks very much for joining us. If you've liked what you've heard, please do click the follow button wherever you're listening. And remember, you can email us on trump100@sky.uk with questions, or let us know what your standout moment from the first week of President Trump was. We'd love to hear from you. See you soon.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
That's your lot for this edition of the Sky News Daily. Thanks to the Trump 100 team. Do make sure to give their podcast a follow. And if you're not already doing the same for the Sky News Daily, why not do that as well? We are back again Monday. Make sure you have a lovely weekend.
Donald Trump is heading back to the White House.
Together we can truly make America great again.
We are in for an unpredictable but fascinating 4 years.
And we're going to be following every twist and turn for the first 100 days. We'll be bringing you the latest updates and analysis first thing every morning. So join me, James Matthews.
Me, Martha Kelner.
And me, Mark Stone.
For Trump 100 every weekday at 6 a.m, wherever you get your podcasts.